Yes, got it. Yes. Yes. Welcome. Welcome. We're running a little behind today, but that's okay. It will be happening actually a lot in the month of October. And I'll be better about, reminding of scheduling things as they come up. But anyway, welcome to Next Level from Level with Emily. I'm Emily and I host the show, and Sam Keenan produces the show and does all of our art and logos and all those wonderful things and many other contributions as well. So hi, Sam.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing all right.
Yeah,
Doing all
good.
right on a muggy Minnesota day.
It's so weirdly muggy and it's only going to get worse, which is interesting. They've actually warned the marathon runners. They have a special warning for the marathon runners this weekend.
Really?
Twin Cities Marathon is this weekend, is Sunday morning. And, often, the first weekend in October can be cold and wet, and it's going to be like in the 80s and muggy, which is really hot and disgusting for a marathon and a 10 miler. They do a 10 miler too. So, they've warned it. It's called not a red flag warning. That's a meteorological thing, but it's like a red something.
Okay.
Something. So just to let people know how miserable it'd be, but that's not what you're here for. Usually I don't let it drag on that long before I say why we're here, because I think that's rude. We are here to talk about this week's upcoming episode of Level, which I just have to say is a freaking treat. This is so special. And what's cool is that we got asked to do this, which is really neat. And by this, I mean, speaking with composer Martin O'Donnell and composer / audio genius, Brian Schmidt, about what it was like and what had to take place in order for Xbox to exist in 2001 and for Halo to become a launch title on Xbox, among other games. And it's just such a remarkable story because so many things came this close to not happening. And, with big, iconic, life-changing, world-changing pieces of technology or events or whatever, that's often the case. There are often minute, crazy things that have to happen. In fact, one of my favorite examples, quote in quotes, is the beginnings of World War I and how ridiculously insane the series of events that cascaded in order to have that happen, and not to compare Xbox with World War I do not do that in any way, shape, or form, other than to say they were both world-changing events, right? So Brian Schmidt's role, and Brian's the one who reached out to me to say, hey, will you kind of mediate this conversation? Marty and I want to tell this story. Brian is the reason Xbox, had Dolby surround sound, which was a huge deal. I just don't want to spoil things, but the story of Dolby alone and what it took technologically to make Dolby happen in real time as you're playing a game, because that had never been done before. Brian's the reason all of that happened, why it sounds the way it sounds, why it had the sound card it had, all of that stuff. That was Brian. And he's just such a smart, I love Brian Schmidt. He's so great. And then Marty O'Donnell on the other end of it was making Halo for Bungie. And so when Bungie was making Halo, they weren't making it for Xbox because there wasn't an Xbox yet. They were making it for Mac and PC. So the pivot that Bungie then had to make to take, first of all, a first-person shooter and put it on a console, which had never been done before, but also pick up from Chicago, move to Redmond, Washington. I mean, it's a really remarkable story. And I've just been so excited to share this with everybody, and just excited that we got to be a part of it, was really cool. So I'll stop talking now, and you've had a chance to listen to a bunch of it. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on all of the ramblings I just
I mean, it is a really fun one, and it's really interesting. It's the kind of thing, like, there are tons of people who were at the heart of these big changes in video games that have amazing stories, and this is a good one. And it's also just interesting from an audio perspective, because they were I mean, these days it's all different, and of course, you know that and stuff. Just the kind of complexity that they had to deal with just to get music included in a video game in the first place in the old days, in the 80s and stuff, was a big deal. And then they were on the forefront in the 90s of taking it to the next level, building in surround sound, building in higher fidelity, and like, getting to a place where they're not like fighting for a tiny amount of space on a system that could only do 8-bit stuff.
And
it's like we take all that stuff for granted in games now, but at the time that was huge, and it's also super interesting. And it involves a lot of like real time trial and error and building of new technologies and trying stuff out. And like there's one thing they talked about which I thought was kind of funny. I won't spoil it too much, but when they were dealing with like some surround sound system at a theater and realizing
the Chinese man theater.
Exactly.
And was that what you were trying not to spoil? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But they're in the super famous theater there, and they're like, wait a second, like or man's
Chinese, is it Chinese? I can't remember. Whatever.
Yeah, but super famous theater that should have the sound hooked up right.
And
they had their surround sound system like backwards or something, and they made this like little presentation to help people understand how to set up their surround sound systems, because people notoriously set them up all wrong at home, and then it screws up your whole experience. And
I've done it before. I've done it before and realized it because of games, not because of television, right?
Right, yeah, because something's happening over here and you hear it over there, and it's
usually gunshots,
right.
Well, it could be anything, but
but they had this little presentation video that took you through the different speakers and
the game in the game, and in the settings,
they played that in the theater and showed them.
Have you seen it?
Like it was all. No, I haven't seen that.
Oh God, okay, let's watch it. I'll show it to you. Halo surround sound test. It's pretty great. Hang on. Let's share. Hang on, let me just close all my tabs. They're all Halo tabs, but still. It's adorable, and it's so janky, which I mean, it's 2001, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really funny. Okay, let me share my screen. YouTube. All right. Yeah, let's watch this.
With auto full screened on me.
Yep.
I'm not hearing that, by the way.
Oh, bummer. You're not hearing it?
No.
Well, look it up.
Okay.
When you, maybe you're not hearing it because you can't stream a YouTube video while you're streaming YouTube. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? Look it up. Watch it. It's adorable. And anyway, they had that, and I love that Marty. Well, it's a great story. One of many great stories. And we didn't really talk about music too much. And as I was editing, often it's really a difficult decision to know kind of how to break up a conversation like that, because honestly, I kind of just told them to go, just like to start. And so they kind of formed just such a nice banter that I didn't break stuff up.
I noticed that.
Exclusively.
Right.
There are some special audio drop-ins, but for the most part, I just put music at the top and bottom. Halo's music is fantastic and iconic, and Marty talks about his composition process, which is as he admits freely, one of the reasons that he has had difficulty in the gaming world. His process is not necessarily conducive for games, and when you hear him talk about that, you can draw your own conclusions about that, but he talks about that briefly. It just it just was so neat to just hear him talk about it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's super neat, and just it's such a good little slice of history, really, because like you're talking Microsoft and Bill Gates and
Yeah.
launching of the Xbox, and like there's some really fun behind the scenes stuff they talk about. I liked how they talked about how working with Microsoft, they set themselves up in a studio where even Bill Gates like didn't get a key.
Yeah, Bungie
And,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bungie did. Yeah, and they
Yep.
had to like they did a good job of keeping themselves safe from interference, because all that stuff was so in
Yep.
the height of all this development, and
Right. And the same thing happened with Xbox, because every department in Microsoft wanted a piece of Xbox. And after they had not numerous, I think there was one big discussion with Bill Gates about why Office wouldn't be on there. He understood. He's like, you're right. If anybody tells you they want to be on there, you just tell them no,
Yeah.
And so they also had that kind of autonomy, which is, I mean, that is key to getting projects finished, is to have one cook in the kitchen,
Right.
or with a sous chef or two,
Yeah.
And so it's remarkable that they both, Bungie and Xbox, were given that kind of, and of course, Xbox didn't get a key either. Nobody but Bungie got keys to Bungie, which was cool. So
yeah,
neat, totally neat story, and just super excited to share it with everybody. Yeah. I mean, I interviewed Marty years and years and years ago. We did together at the other place. And I remember a lot of that. I remember how great that was. And, I've known him ever since, which is really great,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And it's just like the discussions like this one are just really cool and important to archive too.
Yeah.
And like it'd be neat to get more of those, you know what I mean? Just these people, because they're talking about stuff that happened like a quarter of a century ago.
Yeah.
And those people that are involved in kind of the beginnings of all this stuff that go back to the 80s and even 70s, like they're getting old.
Yeah.
And it's
we are.
Yeah. But it's like, just getting those stories down is important. And it's also super interesting, but
yes. Yeah. Super.
And if you're a younger person, I mean, that's also kind of super fascinating. There's a lot of young gamers that weren't born before PlayStation 2, you know what I mean?
Right.
And and Xbox and all that stuff. And so like it's it's good. It's good modern history.
It is. Yeah. And I certainly learned a ton about all of it. And about both of them. I guess I knew more about Marty and his process moving from Chicago out west more than I knew Brian's story, but it was just great. It's great. It's good stuff. And yeah. I don't know. Should we go out on a little Halo theme, or do you have more you want to say about it?
I mean, I have more I could say. I just don't want to blow it by
I know. We could
stories.
just tell all the good nuggets.
So yeah, let's not do that. But
okay.
Yeah, I'd be into some Halo music. One funny thing, this is a little bit of a spoiler. Speaking of Halo, is I thought it was really funny that that I think it was Brian that kind of made a mistake on the first Halo
it was
soundtrack,
Marty.
It was
Marty.
Okay,
yeah,
it was Marty.
On the mix.
And yeah, so it has like double all the bass frequencies, and so that first if you play the first Halo game, it's like
it is.
That's really funny. And that's just because I mean, that's just an example of they were literally doing all this stuff for the first time and like solving these problems for the first time.
That had to do with crossfade versus, I can't remember what he was talking about, and I was like, I'm gonna have to have Sam explain that to me. So we'll have to talk about that either in the next level or offline.
Yeah.
Talking about
It's just
the
an annoying,
two
complicated
inputs
way
to the,
they
yeah.
split bass frequencies up, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, highly recommend this chat. Here's one super annoying thing is that I did forget to record the video, which really bums me out. And
Yeah.
I promise you, I will regret forever.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we got the audio, and I think
mhm.
it's great. So,
Yep. And you'll probably be talking to those fellas again too.
I would hope. But yeah, it'd be fun if that was kind of like the beginning of a series of kind of behind the scenes type things like that, since we're coming up on 25 years of a lot of that next gen stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. So, watch don't watch, listen to the episode. It'll be coming to us Friday sometime in the morning. I don't have to work till much later in the day. So that's the plan. But let's go out on a little bit of the iconic opening of Halo Combat Evolved, a launch title for the Xbox, the original Xbox. That Major 7 Lydian. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And then it goes on and the strings do their thing and it's wonderful.
Nice.
So yeah. Halo,
one of these
man.
days we should take all the times that we're sitting and listening to music on these next levels and just string it all together where we're just sitting here not saying anything. Make a 2-hour video of us just nodding our heads. And
exactly. I think that's a great idea. Someone would watch it. All right. Well, that'll be Friday's episode. We've got a lot of good things lined up, which is exciting. And we'll be back. Now, I'm going to check my calendar right now to make sure that we'll be back on time next week. It's at the end of the month, so I got to flip the page. Yes, we will be on time. So
cool.
Unless, something else happens, but yeah. All right. Find us on Discord. Talk about this upcoming episode and other things. That link will be eventually down in the show notes. And yeah, we'll be back next week.